It seemed like any other episode of Dora the Explorer when it aired one fateful Halloween night. Little did the audience know it was about to take a dark turn. The episode began as normal, with Dora and Boots making their way through a jungle looking for an ancient temple. What was rather strange about that day is that it was much darker than usual. Normally, the brightly colored jungle was now dreadly and grim. Dora and Boots eventually make it to the temple, but instead of finding the hidden treasure, they found a strange stone tablet inscribbled of what appears to be an ancient evil spell. All of a sudden, the temple doors hiss and grind together to abrupt stop, trapping our two helpless heroes inside. Dora tries desperately to escape and even calls out for her other friends' help, but no one hears them. Before long, a sinister figure appears from behind the shadows and reveals itself as the dread lord of the evil spirit, Dora's arch nemesis, Swiper the Fox. Swiper reveals that if they cannot break this ancient spell, then he will remain a powerful beyond imagination. Dora tries to reason with Swiper and scares him away with her cries, but it was too late. The episode ends on the anonymous cliffhanger, with Swiper's evil laughter echoing in the distance. The audience was left on an edge of their seats on that fateful night, as they weren't sure if Dora would be able to get out of the temple and break Swiper's spell. To this day, viewers still speculates on ending this episode of Dora the Explorer have gone wrong. It all started with Sarah, a young girl at about 8 years old, was at home watching her favorite cartoon show about the beloved character, Dora the Explorer. Sarah was laughing and singing along with Dora, enjoying her day and not paying much attention to anything else. Suddenly, the sound of Dora's voice began to become distorted and unnaturally high-pitched. As Sarah started to become alarmed, her laughter began to turn slowly into a sense of dread as Dora started to do strange things. For instance, she would often stop talking, as if she made it to the point not to look at the camera, and her eyes darted around the room, seemingly to search for something. Other times she would stop to pick up invisible objects and put them in her bag. The show then started showing strange messages and symbols, as if there was some sort of secret code that only Dora could understand. Sarah, feeling more and more scared, changed the channel and tried to forget what she just saw. Little did she know that this would be the only beginning of a lot of episodes of strange, seemingly supernatural experiences with Dora the Explorer. There was this episode of Dora the Explorer, and of course, on this particular day, it was Benny the Bull having a temper tantrum. He had been riled up that he was nearly uncontrollable with his rage. Dora and the rest of her friends were just trying to calm Benny down, but nothing seems to be working. He just keeps on getting angrier and angrier. Suddenly, a wild wind came out of nowhere, blew the entire group across the map. When they finally landed, they saw that Benny had caused some truly horrifying destruction. Buildings had been destroyed with people inside of them turned to stone. Animals had been ripped apart, and the whole landscape was just in a disarray. Even worse, the Wind Genie had been unleashed as he rampaged throughout the city. Further destruction followed him in his wake. Dora and her friends had to try to find a way to put a stop to him and restore the city to its former glory. They traveled into the Forbidden City to confront the Wind Genie. After an intense battle, where all the involved utilized their most impressive skills, the heroes were able to defeat the Wind Genie and send him back to the sky from where he once came. But Benny was still angry. Dora realized that if they didn't do something to fix his temper, the people of the city would forever be in danger. So she tried and had an idea that would calm him down and also help him understand the value of using his temper responsibly. Dora decided to take Benny on an adventure. They hoped that their trusty steed, Swiper the Fox, and traveled across the map. Benny had the most amazing time. At the end, he finally realized what he'd done wrong and how to control his temper in the future. The people of the city were thankful that Benny had changed his ways, and the mayor offered Benny the key to the city as a sign of gratitude. As Benny accepted the key, He felt truly humbled and had promised to never use his temper or to create destruction again. It was a story of how a once destructive temper that had been turned around with a little bit of kindness and understanding. Dora and Benny had proven that anyone can learn how to control their temper, no matter how strong might be. And from that day forth, Dora and Benny would always remember the lessons they had learned in that creepy episode of Dora the Explorer. It all began when Dora first decided to take a walk in the forest at night. She had heard about a creature known as Isa the iguana, who had said to prowl the area, and sometimes she would even talk to people that were nearby. She was a bit apprehensive, but decided to take the chance that it would do all much ado about nothing. Little did she know that she was about to witness some terrifying episode with Isa as the star. What Dora noticed at first was how still and motionless Lisa was laying on the ground. She inched closer, expecting her eyes to match her movement. However, most animals did, but instead, she noticed her eyes were fixed in place, staring straight at the head. Her body started to tremble slightly, as if something was taking over her mind and soul. Suddenly, her eyes started to glow bright green, and it seemed to be possessed by some otherworldly force. Dora began backing away, frozen in fear in place. She was too scared to even scream, as she just watched Isa slowly turn around in the forest with a strange and human grace. As Dora slowly backed away, and she started to hear whispers and murmurs all around her, and realized that they were coming from Isa. She was also levitating slightly off the ground, and whispers were growing increasingly louder. Dora could make out the small phrases like "take me" and "deeper," and the sight of the green light eyes fervor terrified her. When it was all over, Isa was back to her normal state, but Dora could not forget what she had witnessed. She had heard about Isa's episode, but never could have imagined how terrifying they would be if they ever were to see Isa in that state. Does anybody remember this one Dora the Explorer episode called Dora Saves the Prince? Yeah, I remember that episode back in the day. It was a pretty good episode, but however, that was because I heard rumors that there was a darker episode of it that honestly Nickelodeon thought it would be too a little bit too scary and a little bit too intense for television. So of course, that was the case. Dora Saves the Prince episode was an alternative one, and I happen to remember an employee had an email and he told me about this episode. Dora Saves the Prince episode was originally going to have a little bit more darker tone. However, they ended up changing drastically, and they even had to change the entire storyline because some of the nature wasn't suitable for Dora. I mean, Dora has gone crazy a bunch of times, but she was meant for kids. The prince lived far, far away and was missing, presumably kidnapped, and Dora and Boots had immediately sprang into action to go find the prince to bring him back home. The path to far, far away land was long and arduous. Along the way, Dora and Boots encounter all sorts of creepy and spooky creatures, ranging from spiders to giant stone heads. The heads seemed to be following them. Wherever it went, fear and terror began to spread. Fortunately, after a few days of trekking, Dora and her friends made it to far away land and quickly found the prince's castle. But when they went inside, they found no prince, instead a giant black beast. The beast was huge and menacing, but Dora and Boots bravely fought it off, and they managed to find the real prince hidden in a secret room. The prince was unharmed and was very relieved to see that Dora and her friends had found him. He thanked them heartedly, and as he did, the whole kingdom of far, far away land, they all lived happily ever after. That was the alternative episode and ending. However, involved Dora and Boots being unable to save the prince, and the giant black beast remained in the castle. It was up to the brave heroes to vanquish the dark creature and restore peace and balance to far away land once again. The story of Dora's victory was quickly spread out far and wide, and is still remembered bird fondly to this day. However, most people would just think it's just rumors because this episode was never been aired to the public. However, if you want to know, then you would have to contact Nickelodeon about it because Nickelodeon owns Dora.